Hey everyone, and welcome back to Deep Sport Insights. Tonight we'll be breaking down Dana White Contender Series Week 4. We got 5 fights for you with prospects chasing that UFC dream. If you're new here, make sure you subscribe and hit the notification bell so that way you don't miss any of our breakdowns. Today I'll be giving you my breakdown for each of the matchups, key highlights, and who I think is going to be coming out on top. And with no further delays, let's get into our first breakdown. Starting off, we have Jack Congden versus Jean-Paul Lebosnoyan. Okay, this is going to be the easiest fight to predict out of the 5 fights today, and I'll kind of give you the reason for each of these fights or why they're a little bit strange today, but this is the easiest one. Jack Congden simply does not belong in the UFC. He comes from Cage Titans. It's a really low-level regional league compared to some of the other regions across the United States. And Jack Congden has been hit even at that against low-level competition. He's fighting absolute tomato cans. He's got a karate-style striking base, likes to stay long and throw front kicks and teeps, but that leaves him open to the takedowns. His grappling defense is shaky. He can get taken down by lazy body locks and he has poor transition defense. He has some submission wins, but 2 of his 3 submission wins come by standing rear naked choke. So if those of you who know, it's very rare that a good fighter gives up their back to you while standing, but Jack Congdon's facing that type of competition that does it not just once, twice, but happens a few times where he's able to secure rear naked chokes while standing up. That's really rare. This doesn't happen at the higher level. It's not going to happen here. So take his jiu-jitsu game or his submissions with a grain of salt. Jean-Paul Lebosnoyan is a jiu-jitsu black belt with good counter-striking. He circles well, lands strong hooks and crosses, and has already submitted black belts in his career. His wrestling isn't elite, but once he hits the mats, he is very dangerous. An interesting detail here is 3 fights ago in the LFA, Lebosnoyan was listed as a 30 years old, and then just in his most recent fight in the LFA, he was listed as 26 years old. So I'm not exactly sure how old Lebosnoyan is. So that's something to keep in mind, but not like it's a significant difference in his physical durability or capabilities, whether he's 26 or 30. Either way, you're looking at a male physical prime, and that's what Lebosnoyan will be in when he enters the octagon. He's the much well-rounded fighter, has a clear advantage in the grappling, but if you look at all his fights, he likes to strike. He's a Brazilian jiu-jitsu black belt, but what he does, he rolls for a lot of those heel hooks. He uses a lot of sweeps to try and create space and threats of submission, so he can return to his feet and go back into the striking, which is what worries me in this fight, because if you watch his fights, he likes to strike, and he is successful. He waits for his moments, and he finds those big shots, is able to drop his opponent, and then he's able to get the finish either against the fence or on the ground. Jean-Paul Lebosnoyan should win this quite easily, especially if he just takes the path success, which is try to grapple Jack Congden here, because Jack Congden doesn't have good takedown defense. I think Jean-Paul Lebosnoyan's takedown offense and grappling is good enough to overcome Jack Congdon's deficiency in the grappling, even though JP doesn't have a significant offensive grappling game. But if he employs that package, he should find a win relatively easy in the first round if he wants to. But stylistically, what I've seen him enjoy, and we've seen this a lot where grapplers start from a grappling base, then they start striking later in their careers, and they fall in love with their hands. JP looks like he's starting to fall in love with his hands, and the only way he gives Jack Congdon a way into this fight is if he stays standing, because Jack Congdon can land bombs. He is a sharp striker, but he really excels when he can back you up to the fence and then unload. I don't know if he'll be able to pull that off against JP, because JP has a lot of forward pressure. He doesn't really allow himself to get backed up. And he's a strong guy who's fought a much higher level of competition. Give me JP Lebosnoyan to get this one done. He's the clear side. Not a whole lot of value at minus 420, so minus 400 on some books. I do have the fight to end inside the distance, because I think if Jack Congdon doesn't get him out of there in the first round, there isn't a whole lot of opportunities for Jack later in the fight, especially he starts to slow with the standing, because there's going to be some grappling, I have to assume, coming from JP. So I don't see this fight going very long. I think the easiest bet here is Lebosnoyan to get the finish in rounds 1 or 2, or I might take Lebosnoyan to get either the KO or submission finish, basically inside the distance, round 1 or 2. Those are kind of the angles I'm playing to get value out of this. I'll let you know which way I actually play it on the parlay, which one I think is safer. I might go the round 1 or 2 Lebosnoyan, because if it gets to round 3, I think at that point they'll just ride it out. Moving on to the next fight. What am I doing sitting here in the middle? Oh, guys, I didn't even realize I was talking that whole last fight. I let myself sit over over the fighter's graphics. There we go. Just put myself right in the middle there. Sorry, wasn't paying attention. Got right into the breakdowns. The next fight, we have Theo Haig versus Cezary Oleksiejczuk. So he's the younger brother of Michael Oleksiejczuk, UFC fighter. Theo Haig is 6-0, all wins by submission, 5 of them in the first round. He's a dangerous grappler with slick back takes and strong wrestling. His striking is basic and mostly a setup for his grappling, but it's really forward pressure. He gets you against the fence. He will chain wrestle if he has to continue to commit you to the mats. And then he looks for that finish. All his wins come by first round submission. Also, not at the same level of competition that Cezary Oleksiejczuk has fought. But Cezary Oleksiejczuk's record's a little bit padded as well, and we'll talk about that. So now switching gears and talking about Cezary over here. He's 15-3, has more experience in the clean striking. His grappling defense is where he's shown his vulnerabilities. Past losses have come via opponents controlling him on the mat. He had one loss. He had one match against an individual. So I did watch some tape in the matches for Cezary Oleksiejczuk because he's minus 300, and sometimes for the Dana White Contender Series, I don't know if these guys should be much of a favorite. And on top of that, he has that name backing because he's Oleksiejczuk's brother. So it did give me some concern. So I did look at his fights, and about 3 fights ago, he fought against Aliberg Razulov in Con Fight 3. Aliberg's undefeated. He's 15-0 right now, but he was able to take him to the mat and just control him. But it was a slow pace. It wasn't like this relentless wrestling pressure. And what I'm finding is Oleksiejczuk does allow himself to get back to the fence. All his opponents who have tried to grapple against him have gone to the fence, where you kind of get into this stalemate where he's able to get his hands on some of the grips, trying to break some of those grips, stop them from getting the takedowns. But some of his opponents have been successful. But once they are able to take him down, I haven't seen a whole lot of work from Oleksiejczuk to get it back to his feet. He kind of almost accepts the position and waits it out. That's what I'm worried about, because he also allows opponents to push him backwards. It's not like he's all relentless forward pressure. If you know you have a good wrestler in front of you, you do want to be aggressive and try to back them up, so it'll be harder for them to shoot those takedowns. We don't see that from Cezary Oleksiejczuk. The way this fight is going to essentially play out is Theo Haig is going to be high octane, go that first round. He's going to attempt takedowns for sure. I think he's going to attempt anywhere from 2 to 4 takedowns in that first round, depending whether he secures them or not. And he's going to look to get that submission. If he's not able to secure that submission that first round, I see him start to slow down, gas in the second, become unsuccessful in securing any takedowns later. And the longer this fight stays standing, I think there's all the opportunities in the world for Cezary Oleksiejczuk, who has good hands, to get the knockout. He should be able to find the chin and knock him out. So it's either Theo Haig by submission or Cezary Oleksiejczuk by KO. So fight inside the distance is definitely one of the bets that I like. I kind of like the under 1.5 here. But in terms of a side, I am going to lean Theo Haig because he is the underdog and he has that path to victory, and it will be early, and he has to go for it. And also because I'm saying I don't see a lot of effort from Cezary to try and get back up to his feet. That's usually what wears down the wrestlers. They'll take you down, you get back to your feet. They take you down, you get back to your feet. And if you have that relentless ability to get back, return to your feet, eventually the wrestler is going to stop being successful. But what we're watching is Cezary does not get back to his feet. He kind of accepts bottom position when he can tell that the grappler is stronger than him, and he waits it out. He conserves his energy. He tries to neutralize any advancements in from the top position by the offensive grappler and his opponent. And that's what concerns me, because I think he might just play passive, and the time will tick away, clock will tick away, and Theo Haig won't really be getting drained, especially if he's not pushing really hard for those submissions, but he's just waiting to he's slow milking Cezary Oleksiejczuk, and Oleksiejczuk's going to allow him to do that. That's what I worry about. But I definitely think this fight does not go the distance. I like the under 1.5, but I am going to play the side of Theo Haig at plus money. I am going to go Theo Haig. And if you're going to play Theo Haig, I think it's submission or submission decision. For the odd chance that Theo Haig, Cezary doesn't do a whole lot. He kind of just accepts bottom, doesn't want to get finished, and he plays defensive the whole time. But I think he would be vulnerable. I think Theo Haig should be able to get the submission, but it's just that just in case, because Cezary has fought the better level of competition. He should be the better fighter. It's just that this is a clear grappler versus striker matchup, and it just happens that that's a significant hole in Cezary's game plan is his grappling. Now, his takedown defense has shown improvement, and he is successful and is able to shoot takedowns of his own. I don't think he's going to be shooting takedowns here. He'd be insane to do that against Theo Haig, who clearly has a path to victory in the jiu-jitsu, and he's shown slickness no matter where he is on the mat. So that's the side. Give me Theo Haig as a slight lean on the side. I like it because there's more money on the Theo Haig side. But fight to end inside the distance. If you get alternate double chance on some books, they do offer it, not necessarily for Dana White Contender Series, but I would say take the Theo Haig submission or alternate Cezary, Oleksiejczuk by KO. I think that covers you for for about 90% of the possible outcomes in this fight. Moving on to the next one here, we have Mandel Nallo versus Samuel Silva. This is a tough fight. Mandel Nallo representing Canadians. He's a rangy striker with 75-inch reach with just a 5'11" frame. All of his wins are by finish. He trains at TriStar, mixes his striking with his grappling, and throws hard leg kicks. He hits harder, but his durability is a question. On the other side, you have Samuel Silva, who cardio and grit is what makes him who he is. He's extremely durable. He thrives in grindy fights. He's losing almost the first round in almost all his fights. He's almost getting finished in half of those first rounds. And somehow he just stays in there. He's able to weather the storm, and he's able to outwork his opponent. Samuel Silva's really well-rounded all around. He's just not amazing at anything, but he's coming as an underdog in all three of his last fights. One of them, he was a plus 575 underdog, and he won. He won all three of those fights. So this is a tough one for me to pick because Samuel Silva, you don't bet against him. But right here, we are not getting him as an underdog. We're getting him as a favorite. But we have the more dangerous fighter with the finishing upside in Mandel Nallo. But Mandel Nallo is not as gritty as Samuel Silva. He's not faced the same level of competition as Samuel Silva. This is a really slight lean. I'm going to go with Samuel Silva here. This is a tough fight. I wish I could pass on this fight. If you have a choice, you can drop anything from your parlays or not bet. This is a risky fight. This possibly could go the distance because Samuel Silva is durable and Mandel Nallo might not be able to get him out of there. But like I said, 13 finishes all by knockout, and all his three losses are by finish. Mandel Nallo has never heard the judges' scorecards in his career. So am I really going to bet on him to hear the scorecards this time? That's tough because Samuel Silva doesn't get the finishes like that. He is really tough. He should be able to weather the storm early for Mandel Nallo, but then I don't know what else he really offers. He's going to be the bigger fighter. He's really well-rounded. I guess is how does he respond to Mandel Nallo dictating the fight early, and then does this turn into one of those grindy cage fights that Samuel Silva has thrived in late? But those are ugly. You don't get a contract from that. And that's exactly why it's really tough for me to bet this fight, because this is Dana White Contender Series. These guys are fighting for a contract. That's really the prize here. It's not about getting the win. It's about getting that Dana White Contender. It's about getting that UFC contract. This is a tough fight. I'll lean Samuel Silva, but then again, I'm taking a favorite here, and this is the first time he's been a favorite in his last 5 fights. He's really durable and tough. I'm just hoping Mandel Nallo he's kind of made his career beating up tomato cans, and then Samuel Silva is that cut above, and he's not able to get the finish here. This could be Mandel Nallo's first decision loss of his career. So there's the angle I think I want to lean with on this one. Moving on to the next fight. We got Antoine Ho versus Eduardo Chapolin Enrique. So Chapolin's kind of the nickname. He's been headlining a lot of these LFA fight cards. Both these guys have good experience already heading into the UFC. Antoine Ho, we've seen him before. Good striker. He did lose to Loner Kavanaugh, and that's kind of where the issues are for Antoine Ho, is when he crashes in the pocket. He likes these aggressive fight styles, but that's the only time you actually see him exposed and vulnerable, and where his opponents are able to turn the fight around on him. What else do I have on Antoine Ho? He's a long technical striker with strong defensive grappling and good footwork. He's always able to beat his man to the lower point when it comes to grappling or trying to reverse grapple. He is able to either roll through if the takedowns are successful, or he's able to stuff those takedowns by actually meeting his opponent and shooting into those takedowns himself. His weakness comes when things get chaotic, like I said, but outside of the brawls, he controls the action well. With proper he has the proper preparation here because Eduardo Chapolin is coming on short notice. He fought on August 22nd, where he did get the fight finished within the first 2 minutes of the fight. So he's fighting, and now we're looking at about 10 days or so-ish later for Chapolin. So he's doing a double weight cut, coming in on short notice. Antoine Ho has had the full fight camp. But Eduardo Chapolin Enrique is quite dangerous. He's won more fights by knockout. He has a very durable chin. He has his own submission grappling games. And I don't see Antoine Ho wanting to take a path to victory or path in the grappling here, which is where likely Eduardo Chapolin might be more exposed. In the actual striking, I think Eduardo Chapolin is the better striker. We know Antoine Ho puts up more volume. We know he's had the full fight camp. But on the other side, Eduardo Enrique is the cleaner, better, more well-rounded fighter, more experienced fighter. But he's coming in here on short notice. So if this fight gets extended, which I do see if there's no early finish, it's going to start tilting towards Antoine Ho. I am nervous about this fight. They should be wanting to get the knockout here. I'm going to say one of these guys is able to get the finish. This fight ends by KO. Any, I can't pick a side here. I think this fight ends by KO. Moving on to the next one. We have a fight between Tommy McMillan and David Mgoyan. So I have a lot of information on this fight. I watched a lot of tape on Tommy McMillan and David Mgoyan. David is only 21 years old. Tommy's 27. But Tommy has a lot more experience than David because he started his amateur career in 2016. So the 9 years of fight experience. And then prior to that, he was a national state champion in Montana. He went 52-0 in his senior year. He set the Montana state wrestling record with the most pins in his senior year. Undefeated. He was already a three-time state wrestling champ at 15 or 16 years old. So he has quite the resume leading up to this. And then he hooked up with Tim Welch, and they've been on fire ever since. Obviously, we know Tim Welch is Sugar Sean O'Malley's coach. He works very closely with that team, and if you watch some of Sean O'Malley's podcast, you'll actually see Tommy McMillan regularly appear in some of those episodes, appearing as long as a year and a half ago on that podcast. So he's been part of that team for quite a while. He's absorbing that culture. When you look at that training tape and you look at the physical fitness of Tommy McMillan, this picture on the screen does not do him justice. He's in incredible fight shape. In terms of striking, Tim Welch has tried to build up his striking a lot like Sugar Sean O'Malley's, and is there, but he just doesn't have that quite snap and pop the way Sugar Sean has. But he throws the same type of techniques. He's looking to do the exact same things. It's all about footwork placement, looking for your opportunities. But the difference is Tommy McMillan has this extensive grappling background and pedigree, which Sugar Sean O'Malley does not have. But Tommy McMillan, we haven't really seen him shoot or try to implement his takedown at all since his amateur career because his hands have been golden. He's been doing an amazing job finishing his opponents and getting out of there. In this fight here, I do think David Mgoyan might have trouble because he's smaller than Tommy McMillan. Yes, he relies on his grappling. Yes, he's fought a higher level of competition. The problem is he's fought guys that are older, so he's kind of in his most recent fight, which I would say is the toughest fight that we've ever seen David Mgoyan in. He fought. Let me look this up for you guys because I watched this fight tape and it was a little bit interesting for me. He fought John DeJesus, and John DeJesus has wins over, not wins, but he's fought against UFC talent. He's fought against Billy Quarantillo. He's fought against Aaron Pico. He's fought against Bill Algeo, Pat Sabatini. Just a bunch of guys who've ended up in the UFC. Now, was he successful in any of those fights? No, he didn't beat any of those guys that I just named, but he did fight that level of competition. So when you look at his losses, he fought Kai Kamaka as well. Again, unsuccessful. He's 18-13 in his professional career. He's 15 years older than David Mgoyan when they fought. And what you saw in the first round, all David Mgoyan did was crotch sniff for 5 minutes against the fence, try to get this guy down. Didn't do a whole lot, try to pivot off to the back. Just really a lot of stalling. We heard booing from the crowd. And then one time the second round started, you saw that John DeJesus, because he's 15 years older, was just a step slower than he was in the first round. And then David Mgoyan was able to get off his striking. Then it looked a lot more even. He was still able to work in the grappling. And he was able to win a decision over a guy who's 15 years older, likely obviously just started slowing because of that grappling difference. I don't think he'll be able to do that to Tommy McMillan because Tommy McMillan is quite experienced. He has a significant wrestling background, state champion. I think David Mgoyan might be able to get a takedown off, maybe two, but I think Tommy will get right back to his feet because Mgoyan hasn't shown an ability to really control people once he gets them to the mat. And I think this is a great dog opportunity for Tommy McMillan to shine. And how I see this fight playing out is, although both these guys have significant background in grappling, I don't think there's going to be any grappling here. I think it'll be neutralized quite early in the fight. Within the first 2 minutes, David Mgoyan will realize he can't really shoot or go for takedowns. I don't know if Tommy McMillan will really try because I think he knows he has a striking advantage here. I think Tommy's actually able to knock out David on the feet. I think Tommy gets this fight done. I think Tommy wins by finish. Give me Tommy by knockout is my pick for this fight here. What else do we have for you guys? Yeah, that will wrap up the this week's UFC Dana White Contender Series breakdown. So far we've dropped 2 videos for Dana White Contender Series already. We're coming in at 8-2 overall. Our picks went perfect in week 2, went 3-2 in week 3. Hoping to bounce back and get a perfect card this time. But I think this week there's definitely some more edges and some underdogs than there were in previous weeks, especially last week. And I hope Tommy McMillan is one of those dogs that comes through for us. Once again, guys, thank you for taking the time to watch. Hopefully you appreciate the work we do and the breakdowns. If you like what we do, please give the video a like, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell so you don't miss out on any of our future breakdowns. We will be coming back this weekend for a UFC breakdown. We will have some one fight championship breakdowns coming up shortly as well. And I'll be watching some fight tape. I'm still going to figure out the YouTube technicalities on how much fight tape I can watch from, let's say, UFC Fight Pass, show to you guys. Because I like to show you guys what I'm looking at when I'm doing these breakdowns, because I do watch fight tape. And to see how these, because styles make fights. So it's not about just looking at the record on paper. It's about how these fighters come together. I want to figure out to see how I can show more of those breakdowns without kind of getting flagged by YouTube's copyright policy. So yeah, appreciate your views, guys. Thank you. See you next time. And hope you guys make some money.